G'day, Warwick Powell here from Smart Trade Networks. It's September the 1st, 2021. I wanted to do this little video to touch on something that has become a bit of a rage at the moment in the blockchain cryptocurrency space, and that's the question of NFTs. For those of you who've been following the news, you've probably noticed that NFTs have become pretty much hot property. Everyone's talking about NFTs, and if you're not into NFTs, you're not into anything at all. So, what are NFTs? Now, according to the folks at Forbes, an NFT is basically a digital asset that represents some real-world object like art or music or a video or some items within a computer game. And these digital objects are bought and sold online using cryptocurrencies usually. Now, NFTs have been actually around for quite some time, and they've gained heightened public recognition in recent times because they've been increasingly used to create and enable people to buy and sell digital artwork. Some 174 million US dollars has been spent on NFTs since late 2017. So we're talking about a market that is certainly not the biggest thing on the face of this earth, but not an insignificant emerging niche as well. Now, NFTs are generally one of a kind, or at least one of a very limited run, and have unique identifying codes. So for some, they would argue that NFTs essentially create digital scarcity. This contrasts with most other forms of digital artifacts, which are in effect limitless and mutually exchangeable. That's the beauty of digitalization, is that we can create limitless digital artifacts where the marginal cost becomes negligible. Now, here at Smart Trade Networks, we've taken the key technical properties of NFTs to explore alternative, arguably more grounded and standardized uses of the technology, and put the technology to uses beyond things like unique pieces of art or music or what have you. Now, these things, of course, have important social and economic value, but we think that there are other things that NFTs can help us do, which are also incredibly valuable. Now, the key to being able to do that is to understand what it is that makes an NFT an NFT, and that requires us just to unpack a little bit the acronym. Now, the acronym stands for non-fungible token. So what is fungibility and what is non-fungibility? In economics, fungibility is the property of a good or a commodity whose individual units are essentially interchangeable, and each of its parts is indistinguishable from another part. So, for example, gold is often seen as being fungible, as specific amounts of gold, pure gold, is equivalent to that same amount of pure gold, whether it takes some other form, whether the form is by way of a coin or an ingot or necklaces or earrings or some other kind of jewelry. That's fungible. So a non-fungible asset has the opposite characteristics to this definition. Typically, this would mean that something that is non-fungible would be unique, irreplaceable, and non-interchangeable. Now, Smart Trade Networks is a blockchain technology business that's focused on deploying these technologies to enable more transparent, more functional supply chains. So, in a supply chain context, everything in a certain sense is actually unique. Now, this doesn't make them irreplaceable, and it certainly doesn't make them non-interchangeable. But by definition, no two objects in the real world can occupy the same space at the same time, which in that sense makes everything unique. So we mobilize NFTs to act as the digital twin of a real world object. We use the NFT as a digital asset identification certificate, which can be held by a wallet. This enables us to not only identify the object in question and at the same time provide a bunch of traceability data associated with this digital artifact, but also identify who has control of that digital artifact. This is very useful in a few practical ways. For starters, we can confirm whether an agent is an authorized seller of a real-world object or not. When a transaction is taking place, the buyer would be well advised to insist that the person selling the real-world object shows them the corresponding NFT and transfers that as part of the transaction. And that this act, the ability to demonstrate that as a seller you've got the corresponding NFT, is a precondition for both sides undertaking this transaction on the basis that the goods are legitimate and the actors themselves are legitimate. This helps us tackle grey channels and product theft problems which abound in many, many markets. We can also, as a result of this, ensure that we can trace not only the objects and their corresponding NFT digital certificates, but we are also able to ensure transparency around the wallets themselves that are responsible for the custodianship of the analog and digital artifacts. Transparency and traceability further mitigate supply chain risks, which opens up new ways of aligning finance with the progress of assets through supply chain systems. Unique digital assets can thus be linked at a smart contract level with financial instruments. This is something that can transform the way supply chain finance works to remove opacity and to create more transparent, direct links between the financial instruments and the objects and the actors involved in the supply chains themselves. At Smart Trade Networks, we're doing all of this on our own Proof of Authority network. The POA network has a number of useful properties that are well suited to real-world commercial settings and applications, and one of these is the ability to stabilize costs when we use things like NFTs. We recently did a study on the costs of registering and tracking 92 NFTs through 7 data state update events. These NFTs were linked to 92 head of cattle for our friends at Beef Ledger, which were transported from one property to another, then finally to a feedlot before going on to processing. Had we done this tracking on the mainnet, the Ethereum mainnet, the gas fees were a little over 0.6 of an ETH. At the time of the study, that was close to $1,600. And today, September 1st, 2021, that would be a little over $2,000. At $22 or so per asset, the business case simply doesn't make sense for the asset in question. The POA network enables us to deliver this kind of functionality at a fraction of the cost. And for businesses involved in high volume, low margin transactions, this economic property of the POA network makes traceability affordable. So, NFTs can be used for many things. They've grabbed the headlines in recent times because they've been used to create digital art that has sold for tens of thousands of dollars. This may be a fad. Some believe it is, others hold a different view. Who knows? What we do know, however, is that NFTs can be put to use in more mainstream economic contexts, and we've done that in standard supply chains, such as those in food production systems. So the message is this: if you're looking at ways of improving your product or supply chain's integrity through the use of NFTs, reach out to the team at Smart Trade Networks. We'd love to hear from you. Talk to you again soon.